Good afternoon. Before you start, our discussion is DNS, domain name system. So I'll be having some question to you. We have some students sitting there. Please, for them, this question is there. Am I audible, sir? I'm writing here DNS is a critical infrastructure. Why it is a critical infrastructure? Suppose DNS is going down today. What you will observe? Your email will not work, right? You will not be able to browse any website through their domain name, and your smartphone where you have all the apps which is running there, those apps won't be able to work, and your smartphone will not be smartphone anymore, right? So it's actually a critical infrastructure of the internet. So I'm talking about one security solution of a DNS. It's called DNSSEC. It is an extension to a DNS server. So this is the overview of the session. We start with the basics and the fundamental of the DNS, and then we try to configure one DNS server, which is actually recursive and authoritative DNS server. We try to configure. Then we see what are the attacks which can be there on the DNS server. It's called DNS infrastructure. Then we'll talk about DNSSEC and how we can configure DNSSEC onto the authoritative DNS server. So let us start with the DNS. What is it? It's an application, right, which will try to resolve the IP address to the domain name and vice versa. So we have one domain name called www.cdac.in. So it has some IP address which has been given by the DNS server. Again, we have this IP address. We want to know what is the domain name of this IP address. We'll be again asking the DNS server and will be giving you the answer. Okay. So it's the most critical component we already discussed, and it's actually globally distributed. So DNS server is there across the world. So we have root DNS server, and we have very root DNS server, which is there in everywhere in the part of the world. It's a scalable, right? So if you want to add a new domain, very easily you can post, and it's a reliable database. So if you see the history of a DNS, before DNS, what was there actually? This is the first network, ARPANET. This network was having one centralized file which is called host.txt file, where the information about the system name and their IP address will be stored in this file, right? And this file is being maintained by Stanford Research Institute, NIC. Again, suppose some administrator wants to update this file, then what they will do, they will email those changes to this NIC, and this NIC will update this file regularly. And other administrator of the same lab has to download that particular file to get this done. Okay. So again, when this you can see this file, over a period of time, this file is getting increased. Why? Because a lot of entries are there. So there is a problem of scalability, and then name collision and consistency. So in 1984, we have something called Paul Mark Petras. He has written one RFC, which is 882, which is superseded by 1034. This RFC deals with the fundamentals of the DNS server. And we have one more RFC, 883 and 1035. This actually deals with how you can implement this DNS infrastructure, right? So DNS, how it is being built, it follows hierarchical data structure, and on the top of hierarchy, what we have a root DNS server. Then we have TLD, top level domain like .in, .com, .org and all. Then we have second top level domain like cdac.in and all, right? And at last we have either subdomain or we have host names. Again, this DNS infrastructure, its administration is shared, right? So no single entity is maintaining this full DNS infrastructure. So we have some group they are maintaining. We have some organizations actually which they are maintaining. So let's talk about how your DNS works. So I have one client, right? It has to browse this particular website, www.cdac.in. Now this client wants to know the IP address of this particular domain name or URL. Now what will happen? This client has information saying that if you want to know the IP address of any URL, you can contact whom. It's already mentioned in the client. So the IP address of the local DNS server is mentioned in the client, right? Whom you can contact. Now the query will be crafted and it is sent to this local DNS server. Now what this local DNS server will do, it has something called DNS cache, right? So this DNS cache, it will look for the entry of www.cdac.in. If it is there, then the reply will be given back immediately. Suppose the entry of this www.cdat.in is not there in the DNS cache. Now what will happen? This local DNS server has internet connectivity, right? And it should know that whom should I contact to get answer for www.cdat.in. So it will contact a root DNS server, right? Now root DNS server will contain what? It will contain the information about all top level domains. The DNS servers of all top level domains will be kept in the database of this root DNS, right? So it will reply back to this local server saying that you wanted to know about www.cdat.in, but I don't know the IP address of this URL what you are asking, but I can give you one referral whom you can go and ask. So it will give back reply with the IP address of TLD's.in's DNS server, right? Now again, we need to know the IP address of www.cdat.in. Our local DNS server will contact to this TLD's server .in. Now .in holds what? It holds the information about all the second top level domains DNS server. So again, it will give back the referral, right? It will give back the referral saying that I don't know the URL, the IP address of the URL which you are asking, but you can ask to one more DNS server, which is an authoritative DNS server for cdat.in, right? That will be given back to this local DNS server. Again, local DNS server will query to the authoritative DNS server for this cdat.in STAD. Now here, this DNS server, the IP address for the host www.cdat.in will be mentioned, right? Will be kept, and it will be sent back to this local DNS server. Now this local DNS server will cache this entry, right? And again, the reply will be given to the client. So this is how your DNS works, right? Okay. In between, you please, if you have any query, you can please ask. So DNS server classifications, as we already seen, we have something called root DNS server. We have authoritative DNS server, which can be master or slave. Again, we have recursive DNS server, and then stub resolver. Stub resolver is nothing. Your DNS client is called stub resolver. Now, root DNS server holds what the information about all TLDs, right? It is on the top of DNS hierarchy. So there are 13 root DNS servers, as I mentioned earlier, and which is maintained by actually 12 independent organizations, right? So we have root DNS server from A to M, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, right? But in India, and there are several instances of all these root servers across the world, which is there actually. So in India, we have the instances, the mirror of D, E, F, I, J, K, L root DNS server. And in Bangalore, specifically in Bangalore, we have the mirror of J root name server. Again, this root name server operations is currently provided by some organization, and they are giving it voluntarily. They are not getting any benefit from that. No financial benefit they are getting. And these are the organization who is maintaining this root DNS servers. So you can see almost all, not you can see M is in Japan, it is hosted in Japan, and this is by Sweden and UK. Other things are from actually US, the organization which is of US. Okay, now what do you mean by authoritative DNS server? Authoritative DNS server actually is authoritative source for the domain which is in question. So as we have seen, cdat.in is the authoritative DNS server for cdat.in domain, right? So it can be master or slave, right? In case your master goes down, slave will come in the picture and this users. Now recursive DNS server is what? It is also called a recursive resolver. So the client will query first to recursive server, and recursive server will query to the full hierarchy, right? Again, recursive server can be authoritative for some of the domains. Stub resolver, as I told earlier, it is actually DNS client. Yes, sir. Now let's talk about various DNS query types. We have seen already one query type which is called iterative query. This is the iterative query what we have seen earlier, right? So we want to know the IP address of www.nitk.ac.in. So in iterative query, the client will send a query to local DNS server, local DNS will forward the query to the root will give some referral, again it will query to TLD will give referral, and so on. It's called iterative. But in recursive query it is different. In recursive query, the client will be asking to the local DNS server. Now local DNS server will ask the root. Now root will hold the query here, right? And the query will be forwarded by the root to the TLD.in, right? Again, dot in will hold the query, and the query will be asked to stlac.in. Likewise, it will be asked to natk.ac.in. That is called TTLD DSO. Again, the reply will be given back to stld, and then it is to DLD, then root, and then finally from root to local DNS. It's called recursive query, but it's actually practically it is not happening now. Nobody is giving recursive query to root. It has been blocked here. Now we have one more query. It's called inverse query. Inverse query is what you in normal query what you are telling. I want I know the domain. I want to know the IP address. In reverse query, I have IP address with me. I want to know the domain name, right? Now we have one software. It's called Bind. And this Bind actually is a software suite that run under Linux and Windows, right? And we have one program in Bind which is called Namely. So using Namely, we will be able to configure our DNS server. So in DNS server configuration, we have something called zone file, right? Or DNS database. So how to update that zone file? So we have something called resource report, right? Which will define the data type of the DNS actually. So this is how you can mention. You have a label. You have TTL time to leave to put this entry into the recursive server's cache, right? So here it is 1 hour. So in every 1 hour, this entry in the cache will be removed by the recursive DNS server. Then we have a class. Currently we are only using internet class IN. We have 2 more classes which is not being used now. Then we have type, which type. So this www.some domain having address. This is the resource report data R data. So www.cdat.in is redirecting to this particular IP address. So this is how we can mention. So these are the resource reports. We have SOI, we have A, we have MX and NS. We will see one by one this very quickly because while I was telling, I have only half an hour, right? I wanted to give one demo actually. Sir, can I give one demo? Yeah. Okay. Now this SOI record, start of authority. What is it actually? It will give the administrative and control information about a domain which is there in the question. Right? And again, it will hold the data which can be used between master and slave for the communication. So we have serial, we have refresh, retry, expiry, and renew. Then we have address record, A record. A record we already seen. What is the address for this particular host? So for www address is this. Using A record you can mention. You have CNAME, canonical name, which is again aliases to some other domain. For example, we don't have search.cdat.in, right? If anybody wants to type search.cdat.in, it will be redirected to google.com. The google.com webpage will be open. So using the CNAME, we can get that. And then we have MX record, right? What is MX record? It's mail exchanger for any domain. So who is your mail server? So here we can say for cdat.in domain, the mail server is this particular system. Right? This particular system. So using MX record, we can mention. Again, we have similar to MX, we have NS name server. Who is the domain name server for a domain? For example, cdat.bangalore.in. For this domain, we have a name server, which is this guy. Right? Now let us try to configure Bind for recursive server. So what I am having here, I am having CentOS 7.6, right? On that CentOS, I will be installing Bind, and that in Bind we will configure Namely, right? And then we will try to configure recursive resolver and then authoritative DNS server for a domain, right? Sir, can I? Okay, thank you. So what I am having this CentOS in virtual machine. Okay. Yes, not 0, right? Okay. So what I am doing, I need to install the software Bind. So here I have connectivity. So using yum command, yum is actually the package installer in CentOS. So I'll say yum install and then say Bind, right? And I'll say bind -util. So these two software what I want to install. Okay. Let's go anyway. So after this bind, actually we'll try to configure this bind. So in bind, as I told you earlier, we have named, right? It's a daemon for DNS server. So that named will be configuring. So that named server will have one main configuration file, which is there in etc folder of Linux, etc named.conf. That file will try to configure. And again, in that file, we have to suppose if we are creating authoritative name server, in that file will be declaring what zone we are owning. This DNS server will be owning. For example, we'll be owning one zone which is called mohit.in. So this zone will try to create, or this domain will try to create on this authoritative DNS server. And after declaring, we'll be having one more file. One more file we have to create, which is called database file, a zone file, which you have to create. That zone file will be creating under one directory of this Linux, which is called /var/named. In that, the zone file we have to create. Okay, so again it is installing because I am using my Geo phone. Yes, sir.
So I am not sure, but I recently heard that Bind has some security concerns, and some people are recommending DJB DNS as an alternative to using Bind. So I mean,
no, sir, I'll tell you, if your DNS server is not properly configured, Bind has a problem vulnerabilities which has been patched, right? So people are using, actually 80% of the internet they are using Bind only, right? They are using all the DNS server is on Bind only. Even root DNS server is also in Bind only, right? So it has to be configured properly. It has to be actually application hardening you have to do, DNS hardening you have to apply. Then it will go.
The reason I asked is because NITK was having Bind until recently.
Yes, sir.
And now they removed Bind and they have put up DJB DNS. So that's the reason I was asking you, because if Bind is really as you recommend, then we should go back to.
See, this is for learning purpose what I am showing here. Right. Okay, so it has been installed. Now, as I told you earlier, we have to configure recursive server, right? So we have a main configuration file. So this is the configuration file /etc/named.conf. So this file I'll be opening. So is it visible backside?
Yes.
Okay. So here what change I am doing? I am just saying that listen on port. I am making a recursive server, a local DNS server. What I am making. So here I say listen on port 53. Okay, done. And you should type the IP address of the server which you are using, system which you are using. I just check what is the IP address of this. 43.207. This IP address I will check. 192.168.43.207. So I'll say here 192.168.42.207. 43, sorry. 43.207. Let us save this. No, before that, one more change what we will do here. Allow query. So allow query. Who can query to this DNS server? Right? You can write here the IP address or the network subnet mask and all. Suppose if it is a recursive server and it is for public purpose, so you have to say allow query for all, or you can say here anybody can query to this DNS server, right? So these two changes what I have done here. Let me save this and let me start the DNS service. So we have this command to start the DNS service, systemctl, and then say start, and then say named DNS server, right? Okay. Now let us check whether our server is functioning properly or not. So here, what I do here, let me just disable firewall for the time being, right? And then say using nslookup we can see. So we have a command nslookup. This is the command to query to any DNS server, right? To query to any DNS server, this command is there. We have one more command dig. I just showed you that also. So in nslookup you will say currently my server is this, currently my DNS server is this, right? Now I change this server to my own IP address, because there also I am running a recursive DNS server 192.168.43.207, right? The same IP I am writing in my IP and say enter. Now it is changed to that server. Now this query will go to this particular server. Now let us try to say I want to know the IP address for www.nitk.ac.in. So it is going to my server, and the my server is going to the internet, following the hierarchy and the result is displayed here, right? So this is how I can configure a local DNS server. Okay, so this has been done. Now let us try to configure an authoritative DNS server for a domain. Right? Authoritative DNS server for a domain. Let us try to configure. So in that, again let us try to open the same configuration, main configuration file. We just open that file. As I told you earlier, we have to declare the zone which we are owning, the domain which we are owning, right? So I am owning this domain which is called Sanjay.in, right? So this DNS server will be authoritative DNS server for this domain Sanjay.in. And then I'll say my system is master for this domain, right? And the database file will be kept in this particular folder //namd, and under that the file name I will write where the database is stored. So I'll say the file name is Sanjay Zone, right? Sanjay Zone. So for this domain Sanjay.in, I'll say that I'll be hosting one web server www.sanjay.in. For Sanjay.in we'll be having one name server NS. For Sanjay.in we'll be having a mail exchanger, right? So what we'll do here, we'll save this and let's try to create the zone file, Sanjay Zone, right? This file will create. So we'll go to this directory and I'll say that let me create that zone file, Sanjay Zone, right? So this zone file will actually hold the information about your domain, right? For example, who is your mail server, who is your name server, what is the IP address for your domain, whatever. So the structure, as I told you earlier, you have to specify label, right? Then you have to specify TTL, then you have to specify class, then you have to specify type, and then you have to specify your resource report data, right? So the label, for Sanjay.in zone, and this TTL will be, you can mention anything. I will say that this information you keep for only 3600, means 1 hour in your recursive server's cache. And then say class is internet class. Now type, the type is, will say SOA. As I told, every domain will have something called start of authority in record. So in that SOA, you will mention that R data. Now R data will be mentioned, right? R data is big for SOA. This R data will say that I am SOA for Sanjay.in domain, right? And who is the contact person? You write the email ID of that domain. So Sanjay.in, for that one root is what we have an account, right? So email has to be sent to root. And then you have to specify the SOA, resource records entries, like what is the serial number of this SOA, what is actually minimum time and all. So I will specify serial number is today's date. Today is 04, 03 and 19. And then we have to specify the fresh. Master will contact after every 1 hour to the slave. So slave will contact to master after every 1 hour for any zone update, right? Then I say if it is not able to contact, then you have to retry, right? You have to retry after every, say, 1 day, right? And then say you have to mention here. Suppose this system is down till master is still down. Till 1 week you retry and then stop, right? 1 week you retry and then stop. And then finally you have to mention here for this SOA, right? Or for all other entries, how much the TTL has to be there actually. So you say TTL will be 3 hours or whatever. And this is what SOA is over, right? This is done. Now let us try to say that who is the name server for this domain Sanjay.in. So again, label we have to say the same for Sanjay.in domain 3600 class, TTL, internet class, and NS will be ns.sanjay.in, right? So for this domain, name server is nameserver.sanjay.in, whatever. And what is the IP of ns.sanjay.in? Again, it has to follow this one. So what I'm telling, ns.sanjay.in, the address is the IP address for this DNS server. I'll write 168.43. I'll say here 207, right? And I'm owning one website www.sanjay.in, right? For this also we'll mention that the address for that www.sanjay.in is one IP address let me, right? And so on. You can mention multiple entries here. Like if you have multiple websites, if you have mail exchange and all, you can mention. So this is the this zone file has been constructed here. We have made it. We will save this, right? And let me change. You can see the ownership of this zone file is with root. You can see the ownership is with root. We'll change the ownership here. We'll say change own named D. Why? Because this DNS server will always run as a named user in Linux. And then we'll say systemctl. Okay, one more thing. Your chat can get this. One more thing. What we have done, this we should remove. I have written for your reference only. Let me remove this. This is no meaning here. This is not. Now let us start our DNS server. Authoritative DNS server. Restart. So it has started. Now let us try to query, right? Query for what? www.sanjay.in. So we'll say ns lookup again, right? Server will be our server on 192.168.43.207, and let me query for Sanjay.in. You can see Sanjay.in, this authoritative answer is coming from our server, right? What we have created. So this is how we can create authoritative DNS server. Right? Any queries here? I guess lot of queries are there in that zone file. Will be there. Okay, let us continue here. Now let us talk about various attacks which can be there on DNS infrastructure. Right? So we have categorized the attacks. Attack which is there on the DNS servers, and attacks can be there on other systems using DNS servers, right? So these two types of attacks are there. So these are the attacks which is there on the DNS server. So we have plenty of attacks. You can see this is the recursive server, this is the client. On the recursive server we can have something called cache poisoning, right? We have man-in-the-middle attack between your client to recursive DNS server. We have DDoS attack to the master and all authoritative DNS server, even recursive server also, right? There are plenty of attacks. Let us discuss one by one. So we have man-in-the-middle attack. So what is it? You have a host, a client, you have a DNS server, recursive DNS server. Now what is happening? Your host is trying to contact to recursive DNS server saying that I want to know the IP address for www.cdat.in. Now what happened in between? The attacker will spoof the IP address of recursive server and send the reply saying that you want to know the IP address for this and this is the IP address. It is spoofing the IP address of recursive server. And when the actual reply is coming, this will be discarded by the client because it has got the address, right? So this is the man-in-the-middle attack. So now what will happen here? The client is end up going to the fake websites because the IP address is different. Right? So it's called man-in-the-middle attack. Now we have something called DNS cache poisoning. This again attack onto the DNS servers, and which is particularly recursive server. Now client is asking to DNS server saying that I want to know the IP address for this particular URL. Now this recursive DNS server will wait to the full hierarchy and go to authoritative DNS server. Now what happened? attacker will spoof the IP address of authoritative DNS server and actually send the fake reply here saying that you want to know about google.com, this is the IP address in cache. And it will be cached here in the secret server. So that subsequent, if any other client is asking, false information is being given to the client, right? So here also the attacker will say that this TTL of this particular cache data will be 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, right? It is very dangerous. For next 10 days, the request server is giving the wrong answer actually, and all this people is going to the fake website. So it's very dangerous attack. Now one more attack, DOS attack, denial of service. What is happening here? Attacker floods many requests to the DNS server. Now there are plenty of requests. This DNS server get busy by attacker's request and don't respond to the legitimate user. Now this will become more problem. Why? Because we have something called distributed DOS, DDoS. Here what attacker will do? Attacker will install a Trojan, right, into some system across the world, right, and those systems will actually flood to the DNS server, and it has been actually taken, or attacker will take the control of all those infected system, right, and they are attacking this DNS server. So it's called distributed denial of service. Now let us talk about attacks which can be there on other systems using DNS servers. So these are the attacks: DNS reflection, DNS amplification, tunneling, and hijacking. Now what is DNS reflection? In DNS reflection attack, what is happening? Attacker will spoof the IP address of the victim. For example, sir is there, right? Sir is DNS server. What I do, I say that I am sir, and I send a query to DNS server. Now DNS server will reply back to sir, right? It's a reflection. The reply is not coming to me, it is coming to sir, right? So, but this reflection will be more dangerous if it is being amplified. For example, I will say that I spoof the IP address of victim, and what I want to know of all record of a particular domain. For example, Google.com has plenty of records, right? So, suppose hundreds of records are there. So, only one query I am sending and hundreds of reply I am getting to the target machine. So it's called amplification, DNS reflection and amplification. Now we have one more dangerous attack on clients, DNS clients. It is called DNS tunneling. Now what's happening in tunneling? Attacker will infect this particular client by a Trojan or something, and will create a secure tunnel between infected client to the attacker machine, and it will bypass the firewall, right? So this tunnel can contain any other information. For example, HTTP traffic can flow through this tunnel, bypassing this firewall, right? It's very dangerous attack. Now we have something called DNS hijacking. Now what is it? In DNS hijacking, attacker will infect the client and change the TCP/IP property of the client. For example, in the TCP/IP properties, you are writing the IP address, you are writing the subnet mask, the gateway and all, and then you are mentioning who is your DNS server. So that DNS server part, the attacker will change, right? And it will give the IP address of the rogue DNS server, the fake DNS server, right? And this fake DNS server will, this client will ask anything about through this rogue DNS server, and it will redirect to the fake website. So this is again a hijacking attack. So we have seen that DNS is vulnerable. Most of the DNS queries and responses are in the plain text, right? It is not encrypted. Again, no authentication is done for the DNS response. Whatever response we are getting, we don't know whether it is from same origin or it is actually from some fake guy. Again, DNS is mostly relying on the UDP packets. So here, the IP address spoofing is very easy in UDP packets. So what the security solution currently is being available here is these two, DNSSEC and TSIG, transaction signature. Now TSIG actually will protect the communication between master and slave. The secure communication between master and slave will be happening through TSIG. Whereas DNSSEC will guarantee what the authenticity of the origin answers origin, right? So we are getting answer from some root DNS server. We are able to tell that okay, this is from root only, not from the MITM. Again, it will guarantee the integrity of the reply, right? Anybody has modified the reply or DNS reply what we are getting, it will guarantee. Again, it will guarantee the authenticity of denial of existence. So tomorrow you cannot say that no, I am not sent this reply to you, right? So this is there. So how it will do? It will use something called cryptography, public key cryptography. So it will actually sign all those zones or domains which is there with root and with DAD, with STAD and all. So this you can see, root has to be signed all its zone file. Zone file has to be signed inside the root. Again, zone file has to be signed into the top level domains, and so second top level domain in the full hierarchy has to be signed. Now this DNSSEC has added some resource records. You can see we have number one resource record is DNS key. So what is the DNS key? DNS key will hold the public key of the zone signing key and key signing key. I tell you what will be by zone signing key and key signing key. The public key will be kept inside this particular resource record, which is called DNS key. Right? Now we have something called RR set, resource record set. So what is happening here? Suppose we have a same type of resource record will be bundled, and then this has to be signed. This has to be signed using zone signing key, right? So these are the AA record which is bundled for particular domain, and it is called RR set, and this RR set has to be digitally signed by zone signing key of that particular server. Now zone signing key has two parts, public key and private key, right? Public key, private key will be used to sign a zone, whereas private key will be used for verifying that zone. So you can see I have a RR set which I have taken from this. This RR set, we have to apply a hash function on this, right? We'll get something called fingerprint, and this fingerprint has to be encrypted with the private key of a zone signing key. Then we'll get something called RR signature, or it's called digital signature for that resource record set. Now we have something called key signing key. Now what is key signing key? Key signing key will protect the zone signing key, right? So what you are doing, you have a DNS key which actually has a public zone signing key which has to be encrypted, not encrypted, which has to be signed by key signing key. And finally we have something called delegation sign record. So what is it actually? Every child will have something called public key signing key, right? This public key signing key will be hashed, and this is called DNS key, and actually it is a DS record which has to be given to the parent of the zone. For example, I have CDAC.in, right? I should take the hash of this DNS key, my zone, public key signing key, and then I have to give it to my .in. I am CDAC.in, I have to give it to my parent .in, right? And .in will keep this on its database. Let us try to configure DNSSEC on authoritative DNS server, what we have configured, right? DNSSEC we have to apply to the authoritative DNS server, what we have configured. Okay. So how to do that? So as I told, we have to have something called zone signing key and key signing key. That has to be there with you. So you have to create those two keys. How to create those keys? We have a command here. So let us try to create one directory, keys. In that directory, we will create zone signing key. So to create zone signing key, this is the command DNSSEC keygen, right? DNSSEC keygen, and then you will say -b, the key size 1024 bit. I'm taking with this, right? Key size, and then I have to say specify the algorithm. What algorithm you are using for generating this key? I am using RSA SHA-1, right? This is the algorithm what I am using, and then I will specify for what you are creating this zone signing key, for host or for a domain, right? I say I have to create for a zone, a domain, and what is the zone name? Sanjay.in, right? For this domain, I have to create zone signing key. You say enter here. Now your zone signing key pair is being created, public key and private key. You can see here the key pair. This is what is your public key, this is what is your private key. Both are zone signing key, right? Now let us try to create key signing key, which will protect this zone signing key public key. So we'll say DNSSEC keygen -b1024. Same algorithm we use. RSA for the same zone only, I will create key signing key. and I have to specify here, I have to create key signing key, minus F case. I have to create key signing key. You say enter here. Oh, sorry, keygen. Thank you. So minus F says that you please create key signing key. Earlier we have not specified this, by default it will create zone signing key, right? So you can see now key signing key also has been created. So we have this key signing key. What was our zone signing key? This is 815. 815 zone signing key. This is key signing key. 882. This is our key signing key. Okay. Now the keys are there with us. We have to sign the zone, right? We have to sign the zone. So keys are there with us. So we'll open this file. So public key you have to mention actually. The public keys has to be mentioned in your zone which you are signing. So let me open this file, and then here I will say $include. It's a directory to include further from some file. So you include var named then keys, and then you specify the public key of your zone signing. It's a key sign. And same thing you do for key signing key also. You include that also. Paste it. This is key signing key. See copy. So it has been mentioned, this is our zone signing key, this is the key signing key. I included. Let us save this, right? And then we have to execute this command. We have to sign the zone. To sign the zone, we have to execute this command. DNSSEC sign zone, right? And then we say for this zone, Sanjay.in, right? And you have to mention your zone file. My zone file is Sanjay zone. Right? This is the zone file. So I am relating path of view, going back directly, and then otherwise you can put the absolute path, full path. So this command will sign your zone. You say enter here, you can see the zone has been signed. Right? If you see here, one record has been created. You can see DSSEC. As I told, DS delegation signer has to be there. This has to be given to parent zone. Right? This has to be given to parent zone. Currently we don't have parent zone. An authority server we have created for demo. And you can see this zone, Sanjay zone, sign zone has been created. If you open this file, sign zone, you can see what the content of this file. You can see this full zone has been signed. You can see SOA is being signed. Right? This is RSC for SOA. Right? NS record is being signed. So all the source record has been signed already. Now, final thing what you do, you open this file and say here, my file is now .sign. Now this is my new file for this domain. This is the zone file. Okay. You just save it and say restart your named. Now our DNS is ready, authoritative DNS server is ready, and actually it is DNSSEC enabled. Now we need to verify. How to verify? The client will execute the query like this. Dig. Right? Dig is a more tool for querying a DNS server. So I'll say dig to the IP address, right? 43.207. So the queries will be sent to this particular server. Right? Now next is what? You have to say that enable DNSSEC. Right? Enable DNSSEC. And then you will say, I want to know the address for www.sanjay.in. Right? So the query has been sent and it should be verified using DNSSEC, whether it's encrypted or not. Right? You say enter here, you can see I have got the record, and it's a signed record also I have got. Right? I got who is the name server for this address. I wanted address for www. It is up. I wanted this, right? For www.sanjay.in, this is the address, and you can verify using this signature, which is signed record actually. Right? So this is how you can configure authoritative DNS server, and again you will apply DNSSEC on that. Right? No, actually your verification here, if you see AD here in this flags of DNS, so D command, if you see AD means it is verified. Currently for me it is not giving. Why? Because it is not verified. I have not given DS record to my parent. I am authoritative server, I have created for a demo only. I have not given it to parent. The DS record has to be given to parent. And it will contact to parent for the DS record it will get, and it will check whether your key is correct or not. Right? So for me it is not this case, it is not verified, but it has given the zone. No, DS you have to give. Delegation signer, which is what? It is actually hash of your public key sign.
Hash of the key sign.
Yeah, public key sign, not private. Public, yeah, correct. So I guess I am through. Any query if you have, you can ask. Yes, ma'am, please. I didn't get you.
Whether it will address the threats what you define, including MIT.
MIT, yeah, DNSSEC will address what? It will address the issues of authentication. You are authenticating the reply what you are getting, from which you are getting whether that is correct or not. That you are authenticating, right? That is there. So MIT will not happen in that case. Cache pointing also will not happen in that case, right? But DOS attack cannot be protected from DNSSEC. No. DNS tunneling you cannot protect. Hijacking you cannot protect, right? So only authenticity and integrity of your DNS query or response DNSSEC can be used. So that's why my currently PhD proposal I have given is one security solution which is called DID, DNS intrusion detection, which will protect a DNS infrastructure, your DNS client, the request server, authoritative DNS server, root server, everything it will try to protect from all those attacks which I have mentioned here. So this is what proposal I have given to NIT. Thank you.